the bird stopped singing. It happened so suddenly I didn't notice it at first, not until I realized the usual chorus of morning calls had gone dead silent. No fluttering wings in the canopy. No rustle in the pine needles. Just a strange, breath-holding quiet that sank into my skin like a warning. It wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet either. It was dense. Loaded. The kind of silence that precedes a storm, or a confrontation. Like the land itself knew something was coming before I did. I stood on the porch with my chipped enamel mug in hand, filled with black coffee that had long since gone lukewarm. It had been my grandfather's mug. The white was faded and the rim dented, the navy blue letters spelling U.S. Forestry Service barely legible now. I'd used it every morning for the past 20 years without fail. But today, as I raised it to my lips, the taste hit different. Bitter, metallic. The scent of pine that usually filled the air around me was gone too, replaced by something colder, synthetic, chemical. Like melted plastic and engine grease, like the ghosts of machines that didn't belong. Then I heard it. A sound so subtle at first, I thought I imagined it. Tires. Slow. Heavy. Moving over the gravel with deliberate crunches. Not rushing. Not rolling through like a neighbor checking on things. No, this was slower than that. Controlled. Purposeful. Like someone was trying to be noticed. Like whoever it was wanted the noise of their approach to arrive before they did. My gut twisted before I even saw the car. It came around the bend in the road like a snake sliding out from under a rock. Long, smooth. Too clean. A silver Mercedes SUV, the kind with curved headlights that never blink, the kind that looks like it's gliding even when it's still. It crept forward along the gravel path with an arrogance that didn't match the place. This was a vehicle made for gated communities and valet stands, not mountain mud and logging roads. It stopped just shy of the wooden gate my dad had carved himself with nothing but a chainsaw and grit. That gate was old now, weather-worn, but proud. Stained by decades of rain and ash and pollen. It had a crooked swing to it, like the land itself had leaned over time, but it still stood. Still worked. Still held the line. The car idled there, engine humming low and steady, like it belonged. Like it had a right to be there, to breathe my air, to cast its shadow across the porch my grandfather had built by hand. But it didn't belong. Nothing about it belonged. I took a slow step forward, feeling the uneven boards beneath my boots. The porch creaked the way it always did, like it was announcing me to whatever was coming. I placed my mug down on the old cedar rail, just beside the carving, GM plus DM, 1987. My grandfather's initials beside mine, etched the summer he taught me to cast a line and said, "This land'll remember you if you let it." I let my hand rest on those letters for a moment, steadying myself. The car door opened with a soft click, barely audible, but somehow sharp in the silence. A man stepped out. He wasn't what I expected. Not another Rebecca, not another clipboard in heels. This one was different, worse, somehow. He was tall, maybe 6'3", dressed in dark slacks that hadn't seen dirt in years and a buttoned-up charcoal shirt like he was headed to a private equity meeting instead of a creek bed. His shoes were polished. Real leather. Not a speck of dust on them. But what stood out most wasn't the clothes. It was the posture. He didn't look around. Didn't glance at the trees, the cabin, the creek. Didn't hesitate. He just stood there, like the earth under his feet was his by default. Like the rest of us were just squatters on borrowed time. He adjusted the cuffs of his sleeves, smoothed the front of his shirt, and walked forward, not around to the gate, but straight up the path, stepping over the low cedar fence like it was ornamental. Like the line didn't matter. I met him halfway down the path. "Can I help you?" I asked, not bothering to mask the edge in my voice. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. They were pale blue. Cold. Not curious or kind, just clinical. Measured. Like I was something to catalogue. "Mr. Mallister," he said, voice smooth and flat. "My name is Jonathan Keene. I'm with the Willow Creek Preservation Council." My stomach sank. Another suit. Another cog in the machine. "I've already spoken with your compliance officer," I replied, arms crossed. "Rebecca Sterling." He nodded once. "Yes, I'm aware. I reviewed her file before coming out. I wanted to see the site for myself." Site. Not home. Not land. Site. Like this place was already a project blueprint in his mind. "We're not a site," I said flatly. Keene's lips tightened, just slightly. "Your parcel," he corrected, "has generated some complications regarding phase implementation and jurisdictional overlap. I'm here to offer a path forward." "Funny," I said. Most people knock before walking onto someone's property. That used to be the path forward around here. He glanced past me toward the cabin. The lines, Mr. Mallister, have shifted. That's the entire issue. I took a step forward. Not according to my grandfather's survey. Or the county maps. That's exactly what we're reviewing, he replied. There are discrepancies. Historical use patterns. Vague deed language. Things that need clarification. Clarification, I echoed, tasting the word like it was spoiled. He nodded again, already pulling a tablet from the leather case under his arm. We're proposing a revised stewardship model, cooperative management under a conservation easement. You retain nominal title, but the land use aligns with the council's sustainability vision. It's cleaner this way. Less confrontational. Cleaner, I repeated. Is that what you call this? Slapping fines on old families and pretending it's collaboration. Keen tapped the screen a few times. We're prepared to offer a remediation timeline. If you sign the agreement within 72 hours, the outstanding penalties will be waived. After that, we escalate to municipal enforcement. He said it like he was offering me a coupon. I shook my head slowly. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just acreage and watershed overlays. This isn't a resort map. That creek's got ashes in it. My father. My grandfather. That shed you called non-compliant infrastructure, my dad built it with his bare hands before I was born. There's blood in these trees. Keen didn't flinch. He just stared. This isn't personal, Mr. Mallister, he said. This is policy. It's damn personal. For a second, neither of us spoke. The wind stirred the leaves overhead, and in the distance I heard the creek flowing like it always had. Steady. Unbothered. Eternal. He finally broke the silence. If you want to contest the environmental zoning, you'll need legal representation. But I should warn you, the Willow Creek Renewal Initiative has considerable legal precedent and county partnerships in place. Fighting this would be costly. Good, I said. I've been in worse fights. Keen looked at me then, really looked. And I saw it. That flicker. That shift. He hadn't expected resistance. Not here. Not from me. They never do. He slid the tablet back into his case and gave a faint, insincere smile. You've got 72 hours. After that, the next steps begin. He turned without another word and walked back to the Mercedes. The door closed with a soft click, and the engine purred as it reversed slowly down the path. I stood there for a long time after he left, hands clenched, heart pounding. Then I turned and walked back toward the cabin, past the old gate, past the porch rail where the initials were carved. I picked up my mug. Cold now. Lifeless. But the land was still here. The birds started singing again. Just one at first, then two, then more. And I realized they weren't singing because things were back to normal. They were warning. Something bigger was coming. But so was I. The door opened, and she stepped out like she'd emerged from a television show that aired on primetime and preached authority in pantsuits. Rebecca. She didn't need an introduction anymore. I knew the rhythm of her footsteps, the scrape of her tires on gravel, the way the air seemed to chill half a degree every time she arrived. Her outfit looked like it had been pressed by some corporate algorithm, tailored navy blazer, slim slacks, blouse just the right shade of cream to suggest power without pretense. Her clipboard was in hand again, always in hand, a strange little scepter for someone who ruled with signatures instead of swords. Her eyes swept the property once, quick as a scan, calculating. And then they landed on me like I was some dusty file she'd been ordered to close. Good morning, Mr. Mallister, she said, voice syrupy with fake politeness, as if we were old acquaintances bumping into each other at the farmer's market. She smiled, bright and clipped. It was the kind of smile that tried too hard to seem natural, teeth too even, lips too tight, no warmth behind the eyes. I didn't move. I didn't return the smile. The porch felt suddenly too small beneath my boots. She walked right up, heels clicking over the stone path without hesitation. That part annoyed me the most. The confidence in her stride, like the land itself had submitted already and she was just here to formalize the paperwork. She handed me a laminated document, glossy and stiff. The county seal was stamped hard across the top, the ink slightly smeared as though someone had done it with more force than necessary. Another violation notice. I didn't even need to read it. I knew the formatting by now, bureaucratic bullets pretending to be logic, page numbers as if the length proved their righteousness. Unauthorized land use. Failure to comply with ecological transition parameters. And my new personal favorite. Refusal to participate in community alignment protocols. Each phrase more ridiculous than the last. It was like being ticketed for breathing. This is escalating, I muttered to myself, fingers curling tighter around the page. Rebecca's smile brightened, as if she were delighted to watch the wheels spin. That's how democracy works, she said, like she was quoting from a corporate training seminar. I looked at her for a long moment. I wanted to speak, to say something cutting, maybe even poetic. My mouth twitched with a dozen retorts, but nothing seemed worth wasting on someone who had rehearsed her indifference so perfectly. My father had warned me about people like her. Don't trust the ones who smile while stealing from you, he used to say. They're the ones who'll ask you to thank them after. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear like she was adjusting her halo. You're welcome to appeal, of course, she added, not looking at me now but at her clipboard, like it might start applauding. But I must inform you that Phase 2 is already underway. That caught my attention. I blinked. Phase 2 of what, exactly? She didn't even flinch. Community harmonization. The word sounded like marketing gibberish wrapped in velvet rope. She handed me another brochure, glossy like the last. It felt greasy in my hands, like something a dentist would leave on a waiting room table to make root canals seem relaxing. The front had airbrushed families in matching earth tone outfits doing yoga poses near artificial waterfalls. Fake joy. Fake serenity. Same overused slogans, live better. Live together. Live aligned. But what hit me was the label slapped on the back in fresh branding font, Willow Creek Eco Village. A lifestyle transformation. I looked past her to the edge of the creek, where the tree line dipped low. That little bend where the current softened, that had been our fishing spot. Mine and my dad's. I could still hear his voice, dry as tinder, whispering beside me, "You let them rename your land, they already buried you." Rebecca turned without waiting for a response. Just spun on her polished heel, slid into that sleek machine she always drove, one of those hybrid SUVs too smooth for the road, and disappeared down the gravel lane like she had just delivered scripture. No eye contact. No pause. She was a hit-and-run evangelist of compliance. I stood on the porch holding the notice, its legalese already sinking like a toxin into my gut. 10 days. That was the countdown before enforcement measures. What did that even mean anymore? Fines? Bulldozers? Police tape? I sank down onto the porch rail, the laminated page flapping in the wind like a surrender flag that someone else had written in my name. Inside, I cleared the kitchen table. It had seen better days, scratches from years of dropped forks, burn marks from my grandfather's pipe, coffee rings that had soaked into the wood like ghosts, but it was sturdy. I laid out every document I'd received so far. Warnings, courtesy notices, multicolored flyers about eco-conscious transformation, all of them laced with words like voluntary and recommended that quickly morphed into required and mandatory. I pulled my old laptop from the cabinet above the fridge, where I kept things I didn't want to see every day. The machine whirred to life slowly, screen flickering like it was trying to remember the year. I opened a new spreadsheet and started logging. No more hunches, just patterns. Dates. Repetition. Terminology. Ecological restoration appeared 15 times. Community well-being showed up on every page, always right next to something they were taking away. I cross-referenced language, traced phone numbers, zoomed in on logos. I scanned maps, highlighted boundary overlaps, and even dug metadata from brochure PDFs. I was hunting ghosts, and they were everywhere. Then I pulled out the original deed from the fireproof box beneath my bed. My grandfather's handwriting, all tight cursive loops, filled the margins. The document didn't just prove ownership. It felt alive, personal. More real than any laminate, any seal. I could almost smell the pipe tobacco on the page. The next morning, I took a walk. Notebook in hand, phone in my back pocket, I traced the edges of my land. I took photos of every new tire mark, every fresh footprint, every piece of trash that hadn't been there before. They had been here, quietly, deliberately, as if my boundaries weren't even real to them. When I reached the bend in the creek, the breath left my body. A platform. Wooden. Barely finished, but already present. Like a splinter shoved into the land. 2 folding chairs had been set up. One of them had a ceramic mug sitting on the seat, still half full. It was warm. Someone had just been here. I snapped photos like a madman. Close-ups. Wide shots. I documented everything. The shoe prints, the platform's foundation, the direction of the wind based on the way the steam curled off the mug. Then I saw the sign. Future Site, Willow Creek Mindfulness Deck. Mindfulness. The word made my skin crawl. That wasn't what this was. This wasn't wellness. This wasn't serenity. It was a hostile takeover in granola packaging. They were building on my memories, whitewashing them into something palatable for vacationers. I turned and walked away, teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. I'd seen this before, in the Gulf, in South Dakota. First they rename it. Then they sell it back to you as an upgrade. And then they bury the truth beneath artificial waterfalls and donor plaques. That afternoon, I ran into Tom Halpern at the gas station. He looked nervous, fiddling with the pump like it owed him answers. They came to me too, he said without looking up. Said it was temporary. Said it would improve things. Said you were being uncooperative. I didn't reply. My throat was tight. The betrayal didn't hurt as much as the predictability. I didn't know it'd go this far, he added, then after a pause, I'm sorry. But sorry doesn't uncut trees. It doesn't unbuild platforms or erase contracts. It just hangs there, stale and weightless. That night, I wrote my first formal complaint to the county. The tone was measured. No yelling. Just facts. Photos. GPS pins. Statutory violations. I referenced public health codes, historical rights, even water use precedent. If they wanted a paper trail, I was going to wrap them in it. Sleep didn't come. I sat up, eyes twitching toward the window. Twice I thought I saw lanterns in the woods, soft lights drifting between the pines. I couldn't be sure if they were real or if my mind had gone nocturnal with paranoia. But I felt watched. Not by wildlife. By something more deliberate. The next morning, a package appeared. No sender. No postage. Just a manila envelope under my doormat. Inside, one page. A parcel review. Willow Creek Transitional Overlay. My property listed under Phase 3, pending reallocation. It had been finalized 3 months ago. 3 months before Rebecca ever showed up. This hadn't been a response to me. It had been a plan. A timetable disguised as policy. They always intended to take it. I burned the page in the sink, the flame curling the corner like it was whispering goodbye. Smoke stung my eyes, but I didn't look away. At 6:42 a.m., I opened my inbox and found the kill shot. A nameless email. No subject. No body text, just a black file labeled FYI. I clicked it. Inside, scanned files from my divorce proceedings. My father's hospice charts. Therapy transcripts from a veterans group I joined 4 years ago. They weren't just trying to take my land. They were trying to dismantle me. At the end of the email, one sentence. Back off or we escalate further. No name. No signature. Just the smell of war. I reached for my coffee and nearly dropped the mug. And then, finally, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Lisa. The line rang twice. David, she answered, surprised. I swallowed. Yeah. I need your help. She was silent a beat. Then, is this about Willow Creek? I blinked. How do you know that? She sighed. Because you're not the only one who got hit. We agreed to meet at a neutral spot, a courthouse cafe with bad muffins and good privacy. Lisa was already there when I walked in, fingers curled around her coffee like it might testify against her. Some battles, it turns out, you don't fight alone. You look like hell, Lisa said, voice blunt, stripped of any performative sympathy. I offered a half smile that hurt the muscles in my face. Feel worse. She motioned to the seat across from her at the worn cafe table, the kind that always felt slightly sticky no matter how often it got wiped down. I sat slowly, the exhaustion making my bones feel older than they were. There was so much I wanted to tell her. That I hadn't slept in 3 nights. That the shadows on my porch moved when they shouldn't. That I couldn't shake the sense that every time I blinked, someone was watching. But I didn't say any of that. Now wasn't the time for fear. Now was the time for facts. I pulled the small flash drive from my coat pocket and slid it across the table toward her like it was a weapon. In a way, it was. They sent this. Personal stuff. Way too personal. Lisa's eyebrows drew together as she plugged it into her laptop, her fingers moving quickly but deliberately. She was still the same woman who could outpace anyone in court, the same one who'd once gone toe-to-toe with a crooked prosecutor and walked away with a sealed indictment. But this made even her hesitate. Her eyes narrowed as folder after folder opened. At first, it was just spreadsheets, PDFs, emails. Then came images, annotated screenshots, highlighted text chains. And finally, the deeply invasive files, therapy notes, divorce transcripts, even scanned pages from my father's hospice log. Her face shifted as she read, first confusion, then something darker. Shock. Maybe even dread. Jesus, she whispered. They really did their homework. We sat in silence for a while, the quiet more ominous than any words. The low hum of the cafe around us faded beneath the weight of what was on her screen. Lisa clicked through more folders, her jaw clenched, murmuring legal language under her breath like incantations: violation of privacy, breach of medical data, unlawful surveillance, weaponized litigation. She paused. Then she said something that made my blood go cold. This isn't just a smear campaign. They're collecting psychological profiles. I nodded slowly. Which means someone's funding this. Someone who knows how to dismantle people quietly. Legally. Lisa scrolled faster, scanning names, IP logs, timestamps. Then suddenly she stopped, her hand frozen on the touchpad. Wait. This name, I've seen it before. I leaned in. Where? She tapped the screen. Back when I clerked in Sacramento, there was this weird case, a land trust investigation that got buried. Fast. All sealed up, records expunged. But that name was on one of the donor lists. I remember because the shell company had ties to a church that never existed. We moved to a booth in the far corner, away from windows and ears. She pulled out her own encrypted drive and started cross-referencing files, names, EIN numbers, zoning application IDs. And then it unraveled. This isn't just some HOA overreach, she said, voice tight. This is a whole network. Shell companies funneling land acquisitions under the banner of sustainability. They are flipping these sites under non-profit fronts, grant money up front, then leasing the properties to private luxury resorts on the back end. I sat back, stunned. They are laundering nature. She rubbed her temples, visibly shaken. They're using public trust language to commit real estate fraud. See this? She pointed to a document labeled Community Wellness Overlay. That's not a real zoning term, she said. It's fiction. But it's dressed up with just enough legalese to pass under the radar. She clicked 2 more files, revealing financial trails and meeting minutes that didn't align. It's all fake, she muttered. But it feels official. That's how they get away with it. It's psychological warfare. Wrap the theft in soft language, use friendly fonts, talk about healing and alignment. Meanwhile, they are hollowing the place out. I felt the weight of it all pressed down on me. So, what do we do? Lisa looked up, her eyes sharp, her tone flat. We dig quietly. And when we strike, we make it hurt. I nodded, jaw tight, but under the table, my hand clenched, not in rage, but in resolve. Later that night, I stood alone in my driveway with a flashlight in hand. The beam swept across trees and shadows, and every rustle made my spine go rigid. My paranoia had become something more dangerous, justified. I wasn't imagining it anymore. The shadows weren't just shadows. They were possibilities. Amanda showed up around 8, headlights off, car coasting to a stop like she didn't want to wake the trees. No camera, no phone, just a folder under her arm and a battered thermos in hand. It's happening, she said as she stepped onto the porch. They're prepping the pavilion frame. It's already staked out. They brought a contractor. Full crew starts next week. I opened the folder. Inside were photos, poles marked with colored tape, signs labeled Wellness Center Expansion, ropes strung between trees, and string lights already dangling from branches like decorations for a funeral. My mouth tightened. They're not even pretending anymore. Amanda stared at the ground. They never were. We just wanted to believe they might. We sat in silence, the creek murmuring in the distance. She asked about the email. I told her enough. About the files. About the threat. Her face didn't flinch, but her eyes hardened. You think Lorraine's behind it? She asked. I shook my head slowly. She's the front. The smile. But someone else is writing the checks. Amanda turned her gaze toward the tree line, toward the shadows beyond the creek. Well, she said, whoever they are, they messed up. I raised an eyebrow. How so? She sipped from the thermos. They assumed you'd fold. That I'd stay quiet. That Lisa wouldn't get involved. They're betting on fear. I exhaled slowly. Then we bet on facts. Over the next few days, we built the plan like a siege engine. Lisa worked on the legal front, drafting motions, requesting documents, building a timeline. Amanda gathered visuals, photos, drone footage, witness interviews. I compiled data, rainfall charts, runoff projections, native flora inventories. Everything they were destroying, we documented. I called an old environmental science professor from UC Davis. He agreed to analyze soil samples from the Mindfulness Deck site. Amanda tracked down campers who'd left early. Some admitted they were promised refunds and free spa vouchers to keep quiet. Lisa dug into the HOA's charter. Their last 3 votes? Illegally processed. No quorum. No minutes. Then came the leak. Amanda found a folder tucked under her windshield wiper after a late supply run. No name, no note, just finance sheets tied to the Willow Creek Renewal Initiative. The money trail was rotten. Half the donations came from a defunct Nevada LLC that had dissolved 2 years ago. Another third came from a wellness tourism fund linked to a disgraced investor who'd once pitched pyramid healing domes on a reality show. Lisa cross-referenced signatures. 3 were forged. We met again by the creek. No fire, no phones, just notebooks and adrenaline. If we go public, Lisa warned, it has to be airtight. No guesses. No emotion. Just facts, with the precision of a scalpel. Amanda nodded. I've started editing a teaser reel. Nothing flashy. Just enough to spark questions. We file a complaint with the state, I added. Force an audit. Make them go on record. Lisa finally allowed a thin smile. Looks like they're about to meet the people they underestimated. That night, I sat by the cabin window with my laptop open and Amanda's teaser on repeat. Drone footage drifted over trees and half-built structures. Cut to Lorraine smiling as someone poured dishwater into the stream. Cut again to piles of construction waste and glowing resort blueprints. Then, the voiceover. When preservation becomes profit, who's really being protected? I watched it 3 times. Then I encrypted it and sent it to 4 journalists, 1 state senator, and a water watchdog agency. No accusations. Just questions. Sometimes questions cut deeper than allegations. Because the people most afraid of questions are usually the ones who already know the answers. The next day, I found Bradley sitting in his pickup outside the general store, engine idling, face pale and crumpled. His hands were locked on the steering wheel like he was trying to anchor himself to reality. I tapped on the window. He jumped, then rolled it down. David, he rasped. You got a minute? I didn't answer. Just stared. Only if you're done lying. His expression fell. That's why I stayed. We sat in silence, the radio humming some melancholy country song in the background. Finally, he reached into the center console and handed me a blue USB. His fingers lingered. I was tech support for the HOA's Green Zone initiative. They said it was just backup data, zoning notes, plant surveys. Nothing sensitive. I said nothing. After the last board meeting, something felt wrong. I started digging. And I found stuff. His voice cracked. Emily's pregnant. I just wanted to protect us. But I can't unsee what I found. His eyes glistened. They told us we were preserving land. Healing people. But it's not that. It's a land grab. There are pre-written testimonials, fake vote logs, and zoning transfers signed before the meetings even happened. He pointed at the USB like it was radioactive. It's all there. I nodded once and took it from his hand. He looked at me, fear etched in every line of his face. I don't want to disappear, man. But I can't lie to my kid. Then don't, I said softly. That night, I sat in my cabin and stared at the USB. My finger hovered above the trackpad. What if it was bait? But the question that finally pushed me to act was this. What if it was proof? Screw it, I muttered, and inserted the drive. The screen blinked. Dozens of folders appeared. Some labeled innocently, Eco Reports, Committee Notes, others obfuscated, Q3_Recon, Legacy_Log_A, PISYNC Final FINL. The deeper I clicked, the worse it got. Altered zoning maps. Deleted timestamps. Metadata anomalies. And then, tucked inside a buried folder. An audio file. Label, Q3 Review, Rebecca.mp3. I hit play. Her voice came through, smooth and sterile. As expected, David Mallister is resisting. Personality profile matches early projections. Leverage may be required. My stomach turned. This was never just about land. It was about control. Mallister's cabin had always stood like a sentinel on the edge of the ridge, weather-worn, stubborn, and anchored by more than just concrete. It wasn't just a building. It was legacy. Sentimental real estate, high visibility, high risk. That's how they phrased it in the leaked strategy document, clinical and detached. I had paused at that line, fingers tightening on the edge of my desk, but it was the next part that cut deeper. If he pushes back, leak the conflict narrative. Isolate him. That word, isolate, landed like a fist in my chest. I could almost hear my father's voice echoing from years ago, a memory sharp enough to wound. That's how they win, he used to say when I was still learning to tie knots and dig irrigation lines. Not with bulldozers. With silence. With shame. And then he'd crouch in the soil, dirt under his nails, showing me how roots intertwine beneath the surface. They're like bloodlines, he'd say. Tear one out, the others feel it. That memory, those roots, weren't metaphor anymore. They were under siege. Rebecca's voice continued from the recording, cold, composed, transactional. All cool. Detachment. Send all updates to VR for final sign-off. That name again. VR. It had cropped up before, quiet but constant. Amanda had flagged the initials in some of the encrypted docs she found wedged between shell company ledgers. We had brushed it off, maybe hoping it was an internal code. But hearing it spoken aloud, with that kind of deference, Rebecca wasn't the top of the pyramid. Someone stood above her. Someone above Lorraine. VR wasn't a clerk or a coordinator. He was the puppeteer. And then the footage came. It started innocuous enough, drone sweeps over dense forest, familiar patches of creek. Then came closer shots. Amanda, clearly identifiable, standing at the bend near the oak cluster with her camera, unaware she was being filmed. The perspective shifted. Another clip. Nighttime. Grainy. Me, locking the back gate of my property. Alone. Vulnerable. I felt a surge of nausea. They weren't watching from a distance anymore. They were here. Boots on soil close. Coordinated. Organized. This wasn't oversight, it was surveillance. I copied everything, audio files, footage, metadata, onto an encrypted hard drive. Then I grabbed the original USB, took it outside, and crushed it under a flat rock. Couldn't risk it being traced. Whatever paper trail there was, it ended there. 5 minutes later, Amanda pulled up the drive, headlights cutting through the pine trees. Her face was pale, eyes wide. Bradley called me, she said without preamble. Told me to come straight here. He sounded shaken. I didn't hesitate. I brought her up to speed, Rebecca's voice, VR, the footage, the implications. Amanda frowned, her brow knitting tightly. I've heard Lorraine say something about VR once, she murmured. She mentioned waiting on a final green light. I thought it was technical. Legal approval or something. It wasn't, I said. It's a person. We pulled out the whiteboard and started sketching out the web. Rebecca. Lorraine. The fake Nevada nonprofit. Bradley. VR. Amanda added lines, question marks, red dots. This isn't just about land fraud, she said. This is tactical. It's structured like a campaign. I underlined the initials in thick red marker. Then we go after the strategist. The next morning, the war got louder. Red spray paint covered my cabin door, the word liar carved across it like a wound. The letters were big, erratic, almost frenzied. Below them, the smell of gasoline hung heavy in the air. No broken windows, no matches lit. Just the message. A threat disguised as a warning. I snapped a photo and emailed it to Lisa. Her response came within 5 minutes, documented. Escalation protocol triggered. By noon, Lisa had a cease and desist draft ready. It wasn't a bluff. The language was surgical, citing targeted harassment, illegal surveillance, property defacement, all backed by real statutes. Meanwhile, Amanda had already started editing a second teaser video. This one hit harder. She laid Rebecca's audio over footage of the polluted creek, intercut with the vandalized cabin door. It has to feel real, she said. Not just facts. Gut truth. She was right. People don't rally for spreadsheets. They rally for emotion. That night, we met deep in the woods. No phones. No Wi-Fi. Just a camping lantern, maps, and adrenaline. Lisa spread documents across the picnic table, her eyes steely. 3 phases, she said. Document. Publish. Disrupt. Amanda nodded. She'd gather testimonies. I'd keep filming. Lisa would contact watchdog groups she'd vetted during her clerkship, ones that wouldn't get spooked at the first cease and desist. We drop it in pieces, Lisa said. Let them panic. Let them bleed. No silver bullet, I added. Just 1,000 cuts they can't cauterize. 2 days later, Amanda got a call. Blocked number. Male voice. Calm, deliberate. You've aligned with someone unstable, he said. You still have time to walk away. She recorded it. Lisa traced the call's origin to a cabin registered under Willow Creek Renewal, one of the shell companies. We drove out there. No signs of activity. No cars. But a satellite dish sat mounted on the side of the cabin, massive, clearly out of code. They're watching, too, Amanda said quietly. That night, Lisa hit gold. She uncovered a sealed court case buried in the county archives. A lawsuit from 6 years ago, an eco-initiative challenge with eerie similarities. Same MO, same shell company patterns. Same alias, VR. The name matched a blacklisted federal lobbyist, Vincent Russo, caught skimming cleanup grant funds and laundering them through nonprofits. The case ended in a sealed settlement. Records scrubbed within 3 days. That's our ghost, Lisa whispered. He burns and moves. They've done this before, I said. But this time they picked the wrong forest. That evening, we met again. Amanda added a new folder to the shared drive. Operation Root Burn, she called it. Too dramatic, she asked. No, I said. It's just right. This wasn't just about saving our creek anymore. It was about stopping the rot before it reached someone else's backyard. Later that night, I sat alone in my cabin, Rebecca's voice playing on loop. Amanda's new cut played beside it. No music. Just raw footage. The polluted creek. My vandalized door. My voice reading from the documents. And then Lisa's quote at the end, stark white on black. When silence becomes strategy, noise becomes duty. And we were ready to get loud. The call came at noon the next day. Lisa's voice was clipped, brittle. They reached out to my managing partner, she said. Told him I was enabling conspiracy. Asked if the firm wanted to be named in hostile media coverage. I didn't speak. I could hear the static of her fury humming through the phone. There was a long pause. Then a sigh, the kind that carries 10 years of swallowed rage. Screw them, she said. I didn't go to law school to be someone's puppet. She hung up before I could respond. That night, we met at the old ranger station trailhead. No lights. No signals. Just firelight and determination. Lisa redlined half the nonprofit filings and flagged multiple inconsistencies in their charitable status. They're laundering public trust, she said. And they're doing it sloppily. Beside her, Tom Halpern, former Army logistics officer, reviewed Amanda's thermal drone footage. These trails are marked for clearing next week, he said. Heavy equipment's already coming. You sure? I asked Amanda. She nodded. I've got interviews. Testimonials. They threaten locals. I've got it all. She lifted her camera. We're going public before they can bury it. I pulled out the encrypted drive. Then it's time to name names. Lisa's research led us to a buried subsidiary under Citadel Environmental Holdings, linked to 2 prior land scams. One name rose above the rest. Vincent Russo. Amanda went still. Russo? The guy who ran West Bay Industries. Lisa nodded grimly. He's been moving across state lines since 2014. Didn't just steal land. He weaponized fear. Tom muttered, his name ran through back channels. Ran intimidation ops during the drone protests. Smiled during depositions like it was a game. Lisa found Russo's name on Willow Creek's founding nonprofit. He funded the original surveys 6 months before Rebecca ever stepped foot here. He was scouting, she said. And he thought no one would notice. But Russo wasn't the end. Another name surfaced, Governor Torres. Not a direct link, but his office had quietly pulled state funding from several Citadel-linked projects. Lisa raised an eyebrow. You think he knows? I nodded. And if anyone can drop a hammer on Citadel, it's Torres. The man indicted 2 state senators before breakfast. Then let's give him a reason, Amanda said. We assembled a packet, affidavits, data logs, drone footage. Lisa addressed it to the governor's Environmental Fraud Task Force. Amanda uploaded the teaser to a secure site. The next morning, Lorraine posted a community-wide bulletin. Emergency HOA meeting. Mandatory attendance. Amanda read it aloud at the board. She's panicking. She's trying to spin the narrative, I said. Lisa adjusted her blazer. Then let's flip it on her. We packed everything, documents, footage, visuals. Amanda had prepared witness statements. Tom had diagrams showing the security flaws. Lisa wore black. We weren't just showing up. We were drawing the line. This wasn't a boardroom. It was a battlefield. But instead of rifles or bayonets, we came armed with USB drives, leaked documents, surveillance footage, and the unflinching truth. The community center had been a quiet hub for bake sales and zoning meetings once, but tonight, it felt like a war room. The folding chairs screeched against the linoleum as they were dragged into rows. Neighbors filed in, retirees clutching their notepads, teenagers lingering at the back, young couples whispering nervously. You could feel the charge in the air, like static before a storm. Lorraine was already at the front, cool and poised as if this were just another meeting. Her signature navy blazer, her polished heels, her scripted calm, they were all still in place, but they felt like a costume now. The role she once played so effortlessly didn't fit anymore. People were watching her differently. They knew. Or at least, they were ready to. She opened with rehearsed confidence. There's been a lot of misinformation circulating, she began. I want to clarify some things tonight, especially regarding the footage you may have seen. Much of it was selectively edited, taken out of context. Lisa stepped forward, unshaken. I'd like to offer a counterpoint, she said, voice level, crisp. Lorraine's eyes narrowed, voice tightening like a drawn bow. This isn't a courtroom. No, Lisa replied, offering a small, sharp smile. But it's still subject to the truth. Without waiting for permission, she tapped her laptop, and the projector hummed to life. A recording began to play. The voice that echoed through the room was unmistakable. Rebecca. Leak the conflict narrative. Isolate him. A ripple passed through the room. Someone gasped. A man coughed. A woman put her hand over her mouth. Lorraine's complexion paled almost imperceptibly. Still, she remained standing, but her stillness had become rigid, defensive. These, Lisa said, are not rumors. These are your leader's actual words. Recorded. Unedited. Amanda stepped forward, her tablet already cued. The screen shifted to drone footage, illegal clearings along the creek bed, trash piled where the runoff would carry it directly into the water supply, timestamps flickering in the corner. Then forged signatures on council meeting minutes. Names of shell companies appeared, registered to nothing but P.O. boxes and fake non-profit fronts. And here's where it leads, Lisa continued. These shell organizations are all tied back to one man, Vincent Russo. That name was like a match in a dry field. Tom, arms crossed in the back, added, he's not just a crook. He's a threat. Lorraine stepped forward, her voice trembling at the edge. This is character assassination. Lisa didn't flinch. No, she said, her tone surgical. This is forensic evidence. And I have hard copies for every board member, and 5 certified packages already en route to the state attorney's office. The room shifted again. People weren't looking at Lorraine anymore. They were looking at each other. At Lisa. At Amanda. At the charts. The facts. And finally, at the truth they had suspected all along but never dared to confirm. An elderly man rose slowly from his seat. You said this was a wellness initiative. Lorraine stammered. It is. Lisa held up a document. This chart shows the financial routing of donations, money that should have gone to community health, rerouted through a for-profit shell. That's wire fraud. A woman near the back called out, did Russo ever even come here? Lisa turned to her. He didn't have to. That's the whole point of proxies and shell directors. They build walls of distance to stay clean while others do the dirty work. Lorraine sat down. No one asked her to speak again. The vote was swift and unanimous. All Willow Creek development projects frozen, and an emergency financial audit ordered. But the silence outside afterward wasn't victory. It felt like the quiet after a fire, the smoke still curling in the air. Burned ground. Wounded people. Amanda joined me beneath the cold stars. This isn't over, she said. No, I agreed, watching the trees beyond the creek bend in the night breeze. But something shifted. Lisa checked her phone. Governor's office replied. They want a deposition next week. I raised an eyebrow. You going? She nodded. You should too. Part of me wanted to say no. Walk away. Let the system chew on the evidence. But I thought about the lies. About the paint on the survey markers. About my father's boots, the same ones he wore while planting trees on that land, never knowing someone had already marked it for theft. I'll be at the cabin, I said. I looked at the creek. Burnt twigs still cluttered the banks. Ash still colored the mud. But frogs had returned. I saw one leap under a fern. Life was creeping back. Amanda stood beside me on the porch. "Think they'll forgive?" she asked quietly. I took a breath. Some will. Some won't. But truth doesn't need permission. She leaned against the railing, lips twitching with that familiar fire. "Good. I'm not apologizing." I smiled. "Neither am I." The next morning, Tom handed us a flash drive labeled Project Homestead. It held more than we'd hoped: land titles from other families, maps, transaction logs, all tied into Russo's sprawling network. "We build it out," he said. "Map the whole damn operation." Amanda suggested creating a digital archive, an interactive exposé, interviews, document scans, timelines. "Permanent exposure," she said. "Let nobody forget what they tried to do here." Lisa nodded, already sketching out the framework. "If we want to stop them, we don't just win, we document every step." That night, we worked side by side. We categorized. We cross-referenced. We connected dots. This was more than a win. It was history reclaimed. Turning silence into signal. Secrets into search results. Power into accountability. My hands trembled as I adjusted my collar the next evening. Not out of fear. Not exactly. But from the gravity of it. These weren't just town meetings anymore. This was legacy work. This was justice. The chairs filled fast. And the faces were changing. Neighbors. Veterans. Single moms. County officials lurking in the back, pretending to take notes. But they were listening now. Amanda double-checked the media queue. Lisa sat beside me, pen tapping lightly on her knee. "They'll try to flip it," she whispered. "Let them try," I said. The doors opened. Lorraine entered, just a beat late, wearing the same blazer, the same controlled smile. But it didn't land the same way. The room had shifted under her feet. She walked to the podium like a puppet in a collapsing play. "Thank you for attending this emergency session," she said, saccharine as ever. "There have been recent misunderstandings. We'd like to clarify." Someone stood. "You fined me for planting tomatoes." Another yelled, "You towed my son's car because it had dust on it." The dam burst. Voices rose, cracked with decades of pent-up anger. But it wasn't just rage, it was heartbreak. This was betrayal, finally being named out loud. Lorraine's smile faltered. "Let's remain civil." Sat beside me. She had that 1,000-yard stare I'd only ever seen in people who'd lost something they couldn't name yet. "He's going to live," she said finally. "They said the bullet missed his lung." I nodded, not trusting my voice. After a long silence, she added, "The governor's office called. They reviewed the packet. They want an emergency task force. And they want you there." I looked over at her. "Are you coming?" She didn't hesitate. "I already packed." We sat there for a long time, watching the sky dim, each of us falling quiet. Bracing for tomorrow. Because justice doesn't end with a gunshot. Sometimes, it begins with one. Underscore 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 underscore. The takeover wasn't subtle. Subtlety was for people who needed permission. Citadel didn't. They sent in trucks before dawn, flat black, no plates, windows tinted like obsidian mirrors. Their private security guards walked the streets like they'd always owned them. They wore uniforms, not badges, and carried sidearms like fashion accessories. They knocked on doors with polite smiles, informing residents that HOA security was being restructured under Citadel's oversight. They weren't just flexing muscle. They were sending a message: obedience or ruin. The HOA was dead. Citadel had taken its mask and worn it better than anyone expected. Lorraine was gone. Russo had vanished. But something worse had taken their place, something clean, legal, surgical. There were no threats. Just policies. No guns visible. Just permits. The quiet was louder than ever. Children stopped riding bikes. Curtains were closed even when no one was knocking. Amanda took pictures of the new signs going up: Citadel Community Enforcement, Citadel Neighborhood Integrity. Even the community garden was fenced off, padlocked, marked with a permit no one remembered approving. Underscore 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 underscore. Resistance took root in the cabin. Lisa and I hosted nightly meetings. At first, just a few neighbors showed. But word spread. Clergy, retired military, teachers, single moms, even old Mr. Garvey from the hardware store, all came. They were afraid. But they were also angry. The files Amanda leaked had gone viral. Local press picked it up. Then state. Then national. For the first time, we weren't shouting into the dark. That's when Daniel burst in, pale and shaking, holding his phone like it was radioactive. "You need to see this," he said. His voice cracked. The text came from a private number, traced back to a Charleston legal office infamous for hostile real estate takeovers. It read, "You've made your point. Time to stop. Return the footage or we return the silence." "I'll." Everyone froze. "I'll." Amanda stared at the screen, her voice cold. "Langley. Rebecca Langley." The name landed like a gavel. Witt suspected she was involved. But this? This was confirmation. Everything, the shell trusts, campaign money, the fake deed filings, it all traced back to her. Lisa whispered, "She's not Russo's partner. He reports to her." We ramped up. Lisa sent copies of every file to 3 newsrooms. Amanda made off-site backups. Tom formed an unofficial neighborhood watch. They didn't wear uniforms. But they carried rifles. "We're not marching," Tom said. "We're surviving." Underscore 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 underscore. Then the feds called. Lisa's contact said, "We're watching. If this escalates, we'll move." Amanda nodded. "Then we give them a reason to." We planned a live stream from the old town hall, where all this had started. We'd tell the whole story, who owned what, how they stole it, and who helped. They arrived as we were setting up. 3 black SUVs. One man stepped out alone. No name tag. No badge. Just presence. He looked like money and war had formed a gentleman's agreement. "Lawson," he said. "I assume you know who I represent." "Citadel," I replied. "And Langley." He tilted his head slightly. "We call her the architect. You should be grateful. This place was dying. She gave it a future." I almost laughed. "By rewriting its past." He didn't blink. "History belongs to the record. And the record belongs to those with the means to preserve it." Lisa stepped forward. "You mean purchase it?" Amanda was already streaming. The comments section exploded. Lawson's face didn't change. "End the transmission. Or we end what little remains of your community's reputation." We didn't move. He left. Tom muttered, "That's a threat, right?" Amanda nodded. "It's also evidence." Underscore 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 underscore. We scattered USB drives like seeds, hidden in books, floorboards, potted plants. Our story wouldn't vanish in a blackout or a fire. That night, someone cut power to Bradley's house again. But this time, Lisa was there, with a backup generator. Amanda stayed too. None of us slept. We posted hourly updates, knowing they were watching. At dawn, the state attorney general called. "We want your full archive. We're convening a task force. And we'd like you to testify." Amanda exhaled, long and slow. Lisa smiled. A tired, defiant smile. Underscore 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 underscore. Before we left, Daniel handed me a metal box, original surveyor's notes, yellowed from age. The cabin lot had been untouched since 1948. Amanda added the final flash drive. Lisa sealed it and gave it to a courier in gloves. Chain of custody, I told him. Tell the governor we're ready. Underscore 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 underscore. The sun was rising as we drove out of town. No sirens. No guns. Just paper. Just memory. Just truth. As we passed the new Citadel signs, Amanda rolled down her window and pointed her camera back. Get this shot, she said. Lisa leaned forward. Do you think it's enough? I didn't look away from the road. No, I said. But it's the start. Because this wasn't just about land anymore. It was about history, who owns it, who tells it, and who's willing to burn for it. Underscore 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 underscore. So that's where I'll leave it, for now. HOA? Gone. The fake bylaws? Burned. Rousseau? Well, even guys like him bleed when the lights hit just right. But you know what stuck with me most? Not the gold. Not the cease and desist from the governor. It was how long we let it happen. How silence makes space for monsters. So if any of this felt familiar, maybe drop a comment. Maybe share your own Rebecca story. And if you liked hanging out in this mess with me, smash the like, hit subscribe, or tap that little thanks button under the video. It helps keep rolling. Until next time, take care of your land. And read the fine print. The end.